Before we begin this journey into the darkest years of modern history, take a moment to subscribe and turn on the bell icon. Your support allows us to keep producing powerful, cinematic documentaries that uncover the depth of the past. And now, we travel into a world on the brink of destruction. The story of the First World War does not start with a gunshot in Sarajevo. It begins decades earlier, in an age of pride, progress, and hidden instability. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe stood as the center of global power. Industrial machines roared in factories. Railways connected nations like veins. Cities glowed with electric lights, a symbol of modernity spreading across continents. But beneath this glittering surface existed ambitions and rivalries that silently gathered like storm clouds. Europe's major powers, Germany, Britain, France, Russia, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, competed for colonies, influence, and military prestige. Germany, unified only in 1871, was rising rapidly, its industries booming, its population growing, and its military becoming one of the most formidable forces on Earth. Britain, proud ruler of the largest empire in history, watched Germany with suspicion. France remained bitter over its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War and longed to recover lost territories. Russia, vast but unstable, sought dominance in Eastern Europe and the Balkans. Austria-Hungary struggled to hold together dozens of ethnic groups and feared the rise of Slavic nationalism. The Ottoman Empire, once powerful, was slowly dissolving, its lands becoming the focus of competition between larger powers. This world was a pressure cooker. Every nation built armies. Every empire stockpiled weapons. Every government prepared for a future war they believed would be short and decisive. Diplomats formed alliances intended to create stability, but instead they made the continent extremely fragile. Germany joined Austria-Hungary. France allied with Russia. Britain aligned with France. These alliances meant that one spark, even in a small region, could ignite the entire continent. And the most dangerous region of all was the Balkans, a land of powerful emotions, rising nationalism, and historic tensions. Serbia dreamed of uniting all Slavic people. Austria-Hungary feared exactly that. Russia supported Serbia. Germany supported Austria. The area was known as Europe's powder keg, and that powder only needed one match. That match struck on June 28, 1914, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated by a young Bosnian Serb nationalist in Sarajevo. The killing was shocking, but assassinations were not unusual in that era. What made this moment different was the chain of decisions that followed, decisions driven by pride, fear, anger, and miscalculation. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Serbia refused harsh demands. Germany backed Austria-Hungary with a promise known as the blank check. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany then mobilized. France mobilized. When Germany invaded Belgium to reach France, Britain entered the war as well. In just a few weeks, Europe went from tense peace to total war. Diplomacy collapsed. Generals took control. Governments issued mobilization orders. Millions of men left their homes dressed in crisp new uniforms, unaware that their world was ending. This summer of 1914 was filled with energy and illusion. Soldiers cheered, sang songs, and marched under bright banners. Families waved and cried as trains carried their sons, fathers, and brothers toward the front lines. Newspapers spoke confidently of victory. Leaders claimed the war would be over by Christmas. Young men believed the war would be an adventure, glory, honor, and quick triumph. No one understood the machine they had unleashed. Germany's war plan, known as the Schlieffen Plan, aimed for a fast victory. Sweep through Belgium, crush France, and then turn east toward Russia. But Belgium fought harder than expected. France resisted with enormous courage. Britain sent its army across the Channel. The German advance slowed, and in September 1914, at the Battle of the Marne, the Allies halted the German offensive. Both sides dug trenches to protect themselves from machine gun, fire, and artillery. These trenches were supposed to be temporary. Instead, they became the defining symbol of the war. The Western Front was born a line of trenches stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, hundreds of miles long, two parallel scars carved into the land, separated by a narrow wasteland called No Man's Land. In these trenches, soldiers lived, fought, and died in conditions that defied imagination. The trenches were narrow, deep, and constantly wet. Rain turned the ground into mud that reached up to a man's knees. Water pooled at the bottom. Boots rotted. Feet swelled and blackened a condition known as trench foot. Rats grew to the size of cats, feeding on the dead. Lice-infested clothing. The smell of death lingered day and night, and above the trenches, shells exploded relentlessly. Artillery ruled the battlefield. A single barrage could kill thousands. Men were buried alive in collapsing trenches. Others lost limbs. Others lost their minds. The machine gun turned mass charges into slaughter. A line of soldiers attempting to cross open ground could be cut down in seconds. Barbed wire stretched across no man's land made movement nearly impossible. Snipers watched tirelessly for even the slightest movement. When poison gas entered the battlefield in 1915, it added a new horror. Chlorine gas formed thick green clouds. Mustard gas blistered skin and blinded eyes. Soldiers scrambled to put on primitive gas masks. Failure meant death or lifelong suffering. Trench warfare was not just about physical suffering. It destroyed the spirit. Soldiers waited for hours, days, weeks with nothing but their fears. They listened to the whisper of bullets overhead. They heard the rumble of artillery. They watched the sky turn red with fire. And they knew that at any moment, an attack could begin. And yet, this devastating war was not limited to Europe alone. It spread across the globe. In Africa, European colonies fought. In Asia, Japan seized German territories. In the Pacific, battles erupted on distant islands. In the Middle East, the Ottoman Empire entered the war, and new fronts opened across deserts and mountains. Millions of soldiers from India, Africa, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the Caribbean were drawn into a war they did not start yet. Their sacrifices were enormous. The seas became battlefields too. German U-boats hunted merchant ships, threatening to starve Britain. Naval battles broke out across the oceans, pushing the conflict into every corner of the world. By 1915, the war had settled into a deadly stalemate. Neither side could advance far without suffering catastrophic losses, so they tried new tactics, new weapons, new strategies, but the front line remained a graveyard of hopes. The war consumed men at an unimaginable rate. Countries instituted mass conscription. Factories shifted entirely to wartime production. Women took over industries, farms, transportation, and hospitals, marking a major shift in social structure. Entire economies transformed into engines of war. Civilians endured rationing, shortages, and fear as enemy aircraft bombed towns and cities. Governments used propaganda to maintain morale and silence dissent. Posters urged citizens to enlist, to save food, to stay loyal. Newspapers censored defeats. Letters from soldiers were screened. The world entered a state of total war. Every resource, every mind, every effort was used to support the conflict. And yet, despite the immense suffering, the war was far from over. In fact, the darkest years were still to come.